On August 8, 1863, following the significant defeat at Gettysburg, General Robert E. Lee finds himself in deep contemplation regarding the state of the Confederacy. The Battle of Gettysburg, fought from July 1st to July 3rd, 1863, had resulted in heavy losses for Lee's Army of Northern Virginia, marking a turning point in the Civil War. As Lee writes his letter of resignation, he reflects on the burden of leadership and the dreams of a Confederate victory that now feel distant. After completing the letter, Lee hands it to an aide, who prepares to deliver it to Jefferson Davis, the President of the Confederacy. General Lee paces his office, filled with maps and battle plans, reflecting on the recent struggle at Gettysburg and the grim prospects for the Confederacy. Lee's aide enters, the sound of marching boots breaking the silence, bringing forth news of dwindling supplies and troop morale. Lee's thoughts are interrupted as he contemplates the loyalty of his troops, knowing the impact of his potential resignation on their morale. With a heavy heart, Lee finishes his letter, outlining the burdens of command and the difficulties faced in the wake of the battle. As the aide leaves with the letter, Lee gazes at the portrait of George Washington on the wall, drawing inspiration from the Founding Fathers' legacy. In Richmond, President Jefferson Davis receives the letter, his brow creased with concern as he reads the words that could alter the course of the war. Davis pauses, contemplating the implications of Lee's resignation on the Confederate cause and his own leadership. Determined to maintain morale, Davis decides to personally respond to Lee, assuring him of continued support during these trying times. Meanwhile, debates among the Confederate cabinet intensify as news of Lee's resignation spreads, reflecting the divisions within the government. In his camp, Lee's soldiers gather in groups, discussing the rumors of their leader's potential resignation and the uncertainty it brings. The soldiers express their unwavering support for Lee, vowing to follow him despite the dire circumstances facing the Confederacy. Back in Richmond, Davis's reply to Lee emphasizes unity and resolve, categorically stating that resignation is not an option. As Lee's aide returns to deliver Davis's response, anticipation hangs in the air at the Confederate camp, where uncertainty and hope coalesce. Upon receiving Davis's letter, Lee feels a mix of relief and renewed responsibility, understanding the weight of the leadership role at this crucial juncture. Lee gathers his leading officers to discuss the path ahead, emphasizing the importance of fortitude despite recent losses. As the meeting progresses, strategies for the future are debated, reflecting the divisions in their approach to the ongoing war. The officers rally around Lee, swayed by his commitment, determined to turn the tide despite the odds stacked against them. As the conference concludes, soldiers across the camp hear of their renewed strategies, igniting a spark of hope within the ranks. Meanwhile, President Davis reflects on his leadership, knowing that the Confederacy's fate is intricately tied to Lee's performance on the battlefield. A letter filled with encouragement is drafted by Davis, his hands steady, ready to send further support to Lee in their time of need. The letter is sealed and dispatched. Davis feels a renewed sense of determination, despite the weight of the war pressing down on him. As news spreads of Davis's support, the Confederate soldiers prepare for their next engagements, bolstered by the loyalty and conviction of their leaders. In his quarters, Lee meticulously reviews supply lines and troop movements, ensuring strategic advantages in upcoming confrontations. Lee's thoughts drift to the soldiers' families back home, amplifying the heavy burden he feels for their welfare and the fate of the Confederacy. The camp buzzes with activity, soldiers discussing rumors of their leader's previous letter and the meaning of continued support from Richmond. As the night descends, Lee contemplates the road ahead, understanding this moment could define the future of the Confederacy. He must not falter. General Lee, anxious about the fate of the Confederacy, ponders the costly engagement at Gettysburg, realizing that the tides of war are shifting unfavorably for his troops. As Lee writes, he recalls the valor of his men during the Battle of Gettysburg and the heartache of the losses they endured, feeling a deep sense of responsibility for their well-being. Lee's aide, a young officer, nervously approaches him, sensing the gravity of the situation and the burden that weighs heavily on his commander's heart. With a heavy heart, Lee finalizes the letter and hands it over to the young aide, who is filled with trepidation as he departs to deliver it to Davis. The aide hurriedly makes his way to Jefferson Davis, reflecting on the weight of delivering such an important letter during these tumultuous times. Upon receiving Lee's resignation letter, President Davis feels a mix of concern and determination, understanding the significant implications for the Confederacy's future. Davis contemplates the critical impact of Lee's potential resignation and the resolve necessary to maintain the morale of the Southern states in the wake of adversity. With great resolve, Davis pens a response to Lee, reinforcing the need for unity and urging him to reconsider his resignation to strengthen their cause. As Davis finishes his note, he reflects on the loyalty of the Southern people and how vital Lee is to maintaining their fight for independence. Back at his camp, Lee gathers his key officers to relay the contents of Davis's response, aiming to fortify their resolve and recommit to the battle ahead. Lee's officers express their unwavering commitment to the Confederate cause, reinforcing the bond between leader and men, inspiring Lee as he considers their future strategies. As Lee speaks, he emphasizes the importance of each man's strength, invoking stories of bravery from the battlefield, which rekindles their fighting spirit. After the meeting, Lee reflects on the words exchanged and feels rejuvenated, sensing a shift in morale among his troops, despite the looming challenges they face. News of Davis's support for Lee spreads through the ranks, and soldiers rally around their leader, reinforcing the bonds of loyalty that define their struggle. Within the camp, soldiers pledge their loyalty to General Lee, echoing their commitment to the Confederate cause, inspiring one another to push forward. As days pass, Lee continues to strategize for future engagements, ever aware that every decision could shape the fate of their cause. Despite his turmoil, Lee reconciles his feelings of doubt with an unwavering sense of purpose to lead his army through the darkness ahead. The Confederate Army prepares for continued struggles as news of Lee's steadfastness reaches the front line and ignites a fresh vigor among the troops. Ultimately, Lee's decision to remain at the helm, coupled with Davis's encouragement, symbolizes a pivotal moment in the Confederate struggle for independence.